Hey there, and welcome to Plant-Powered Seniors. I'm Margaret, though most people just call me Grandma Maggie these days. 6 years ago, my doctor sat me down with that look, you know the one, and told me I had severe osteoporosis. My bone density was so low that a simple fall could mean a broken hip or worse. And then he said something that stopped me cold. At your age, Margaret, a broken hip often begins a downward spiral. That night, I went home and looked at my 3 beautiful grandchildren playing in the backyard. I hadn't come this far to miss watching them grow up. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to let brittle bones determine my future. And what happened next surprised even my skeptical doctor. When I first got diagnosed, I did what most of us do. I panicked a little. The doctor immediately wanted to put me on medication, and while that works for many people, I wanted to explore all my options. I've always believed that food is medicine, but I was also a brand new vegan at 67 years old. Yes, you heard that right. I went vegan in my late 60s after watching a documentary with my granddaughter. The problem was, everything I read about bone health seemed to revolve around dairy products. Drink your milk, Force. Strong bones, we've all heard it 1,000 times. So there I was, committed to my plant-based lifestyle for ethical and environmental reasons, but terrified I was making my osteoporosis worse. My own sister, bless her heart, wasn't exactly supportive. Margaret, she said, you need calcium. This vegan nonsense is going to put you in a wheelchair. I can laugh about it now, but those words stung. They also made me determined to prove her wrong. So I started researching. I mean really researching, like staying up until 2 a.m. with stacks of nutrition books, medical journals, and yes, even PubMed articles that my college professor daughter helped me access. What I discovered changed everything I thought I knew about bone health. Here's something that blew my mind. Countries with the highest dairy consumption actually have the highest rates of osteoporosis and fractures. Isn't that wild? Places like Sweden, Finland, and the US consume tons of dairy, yet have more bone problems than places with traditionally lower dairy consumption. The truth is, bone health isn't just about calcium, it's about a complex matrix of nutrients working together. It's about vitamin D, vitamin K, magnesium, potassium, and even protein balance. It's about weight-bearing exercise and reducing inflammation in the body. But perhaps most surprising was learning that dairy's acidifying effect on the body might actually cause calcium to be leached from our bones to neutralize that acid. That's right. The very food we're told builds bones might be contributing to bone loss in some ways. Now, I'm not a doctor or nutritionist. I'm just a grandma who reads a lot and experiments in her kitchen. But when my bone density scan showed improvement after 18 months of my plant-based approach, well, that spoke volumes. When I decided to tackle osteoporosis through plant foods, the first thing I did was transform my kitchen. Out went the processed foods, the oils that promote inflammation, and anything with added sugars that might disrupt mineral absorption. In came the powerhouse foods that now form the foundation of what I call my bone-building pantry. If you're watching this and concerned about your own bone health, here are the staples I keep on hand at all times. First, calcium-rich greens. Kale, collard, bok choy, and mustard greens contain calcium that's actually more bioavailable than the calcium in dairy. That means your body can use more of it. I grow these in my little backyard garden. From spring through fall, and in winter, I splurge on organic greens at the market. Next, seeds and nuts. Tahini made from sesame seeds is a calcium goldmine. Almonds, chia seeds, and flax seeds provide not just calcium, but also those healthy omega-3 fatty acids that help reduce inflammation. I keep these in glass jars on my counter for easy access. Beans and legumes deserve a special place in your pantry too. Not only do they provide plant protein, which we need in moderation for bone health, but white beans, chickpeas, and black-eyed peas offer decent calcium along with magnesium and potassium. Fortified plant milks have become my secret weapon. Not all are created equal though. I look for unsweetened varieties fortified with both calcium and vitamin D, without carrageenan or other additives. My favorite is a simple almond milk that contains just almonds, water, calcium, and vitamin D. And finally, let's not forget about vitamin C-rich foods. Your bones are made of collagen, and vitamin C is essential for collagen production. So berries, citrus, bell peppers, and tomatoes all earned a permanent place in my meal planning. When my granddaughter Emily comes over and sees all these colorful foods, she says, "Grandma, you eat the rainbow," and she's right, I do. Because vibrant, colorful plant foods contain the phytonutrients and antioxidants that fight inflammation and protect our cells, including bone cells. Now, let's talk about turning these ingredients into delicious meals that don't taste like health food. Because let's be honest, if it doesn't taste good, we won't eat it consistently, and consistency is everything when it comes to nutrition for bone health. The first recipe that became my daily non-negotiable is what I call my Bone Builder Breakfast Bowl. It's basically a souped-up oatmeal, but with strategic additions. I start with steel-cut oats, cooked in fortified plant milk instead of water. While it's still hot, I stir in a tablespoon of blackstrap molasses, which contains an impressive 179 mg of calcium per tablespoon, plus iron and potassium. Then I top it with ground flaxseed, a sprinkle of hemp seeds, a handful of berries, and a small spoonful of almond butter. This single breakfast delivers calcium, magnesium, vitamin D from the fortified milk, vitamin K from the berries, and omega-3s from the flax. It's delicious, filling, and my doctor was shocked when I told him I eat just oatmeal for breakfast. My lunch staple became what my grandkids named Grandma's Green Goodness Soup. It's a simple blended soup with calcium powerhouses like white beans, kale, and tahini, flavored with garlic, lemon, and herbs. I make a big batch every Sunday and eat it several times a week. The key is that by blending it, I break down the cell walls of the kale, making its calcium more absorbable. For dinner, I often make my Better Than Dairy calcium casserole, a creamy, comforting dish with calcium-set tofu, white beans, nutritional yeast for B vitamins, and loads of vegetables. It's topped with a cashew cream sauce that even my dairy-loving friends request the recipe for. The first time my husband tried it, he said, "If this is vegan food, I should have gone vegan years ago." High praise from a former steak and potatoes man. But my absolute favorite, the recipe that I'm convinced made the biggest difference, is my daily mineral-rich golden milk. This warm, comforting drink combines turmeric and ginger for anti-inflammatory benefits, fortified plant milk for calcium and vitamin D, a touch of black pepper to activate the turmeric, and a small amount of maple syrup for sweetness. I drink this every evening while reading, and not only has it helped my bones, but the turmeric has also eased the arthritis in my hands. Now, I know what you might be thinking. These recipes sound great, Maggie, but will they really make a difference for my bones? That's exactly what my neighbor Ruth asked when she saw me drinking my golden milk on the porch one evening. She had also been diagnosed with osteopenia, the precursor to osteoporosis. So I shared my recipes with her, and 6 months later, she called me, practically shouting through the phone. Her doctor was amazed at her improved bone markers on her blood work. Was it just the food? Probably not entirely. but it was certainly a major factor. While this channel focuses on plant-based nutrition, I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't mention the other lifestyle factors that work synergistically with good nutrition for bone health. The first is weight-bearing exercise. I know, at our age, the word exercise can sound daunting. But here's the thing, our bones respond to stress by getting stronger, just like our muscles do. When I started, my exercise was simply walking around my neighborhood for 15 minutes while listening to my favorite jazz records on my headphones. Now, 3 years later, I do 30 minutes of walking daily, plus a gentle strength training. Routine twice a week using just my body weight, and occasionally some soup cans as weights. My doctor explained it to me this way: Margaret, every time your foot hits the pavement during a walk, you're sending a message to your bones to stay strong. That image really stuck with me, and on days when motivation is low, I remind myself that each step is a vote for stronger bones. The second lifestyle factor is vitamin D, which isn't really a vitamin, but a hormone our skin produces when exposed to sunlight. Many of us seniors are deficient in vitamin D, especially if we live in northern climates or don't get outside much. I make it a point to sit on my porch with my arms and legs exposed for about 15-20 minutes most days. In winter, when that's not possible, I do take a vitamin D supplement, which I've discussed with my doctor. The third factor, and this one surprised me, is stress management. Chronic stress increases cortisol, which can actually break down bone tissue over time. So part of my bone health routine includes a 10-minute meditation each morning, and I've taken up watercolor painting, which I find incredibly relaxing. Find what brings you peace, whether it's gardening, reading, or playing with grandchildren, and make it a priority. Sleep is the fourth pillar of my bone health protocol. Our bodies do their repair work while we sleep, including bone remodeling. I'm religious about my sleep routine now. No screens after 8 p.m., a cool, dark bedroom, and my golden milk as part of my wind-down ritual. Finally, there's the issue of what to avoid. I significantly reduced my salt intake, as excess sodium can increase calcium excretion through urine. I eliminated alcohol completely, though that's a personal choice. And I switched from coffee to green tea, which contains compounds that may actually support bone formation. When you combine these lifestyle factors with nutrient-dense plant foods, that's when the magic happens. That's when your body has all the tools it needs to maintain and even improve bone density, regardless of your age. So did all these changes actually work? Well, let me share something personal with you. After my diagnosis, my doctor wanted to do bone density scans every 2 years to monitor my condition. He fully expected to see continued decline, just hopefully at a slower rate due to medication, which I had decided not to take yet. 2 years into my plant-based, bone-focused lifestyle, I went in for my scan. I was nervous. What if all my efforts had been for nothing? What if my sister was right, and I needed dairy after all? As the technician was performing the scan, she suddenly paused and said, "Have you been doing something different, Mrs. Wilson?" My heart sank. I thought she'd found something concerning. "I've gone vegan and started exercising," I told her. "Why do you ask?" She smiled and said, "Well, I shouldn't really comment before the doctor reviews this, but I've been doing these scans for 15 years, and I rarely see improvements in women your age." "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." I nearly cried right there on the scanning table. When my doctor called with the official results, he confirmed what the technician had hinted at. My bone density had increased by 2.7% in my spine and 1.3% in my hip. These might sound like small numbers, but at my age, When most people are losing bone density each year, even maintaining the same density would have been a win. Actually increasing it. That was almost unheard of without medication. I don't know what you're doing, my doctor said, but it's working. Tell me more about this vegan diet of yours. That conversation turned into a friendly debate about nutrition that continues to this day whenever I see him. He's even started recommending that his other osteoporosis patients talk to me about my approach. Now I track my progress in several ways. Beyond the formal bone density scans, I monitor certain blood markers that can indicate bone turnover, like vitamin D levels, calcium, and an inflammatory marker called C-reactive protein. My doctor orders these tests as part of my regular checkups. But I also track more subjective measures: my energy levels, how far I can walk without getting tired, whether my joints hurt less, and even how strong my nails are. I keep a simple journal where I note these observations, along with what I've been eating and how I've been moving. This kind of self-awareness has been incredibly empowering. Instead of feeling like a victim of osteoporosis, I feel like an active participant in my healing. And that mental shift, that might be just as important as any nutritional change I've made. Since I started sharing my story locally, I've received so many questions from friends and even friends of friends. I bet some of you watching have similar concerns, so let's address the most common ones. Isn't soy bad for bones? This is perhaps the most frequent question I get, especially from women. The research actually shows the opposite. Traditional soy foods like tofu, tempeh, and edamame contain isoflavones that appear to protect bone density, particularly in postmenopausal women. I include moderate amounts of these foods in my diet several times a week. The key word is moderate, not drinking soy milk by the gallon. Don't we need animal protein for strong bones? This is a nuanced question. We do need adequate protein, but excessive animal protein may actually increase calcium excretion in urine due to its acid-forming properties. Plant proteins, when consumed in sufficient quantities from varied sources like beans, lentils, nuts, seeds, and whole grains, provide all the amino acids we need without the potential downsides of animal protein. Is a vegan diet enough, or do I need supplements? In my experience, a thoughtfully planned vegan diet provides most nutrients needed for bone health. However, there are 3 supplements I do take after discussing with my healthcare provider. Vitamin B12, which is essential but not reliably found in plant foods. Vitamin D3, especially during winter months, and occasionally an algae-based omega-3 supplement. Everyone's needs are different, though, so please consult your own healthcare provider. I've heard that oxalates in greens block calcium absorption. Should I avoid spinach? This is a good question. Some greens, particularly spinach, beet greens, and Swiss chard, contain high levels of oxalates that can inhibit calcium absorption. I focus more on low oxalate greens like kale, collard, bok choy, and mustard greens as my calcium sources. I still eat spinach for its other nutrients. I just don't count it as a calcium source. Isn't this all too complicated? I'm not sure I can make such big changes at my age. I hear you. Change is hard at any age, but perhaps especially when we've been eating a certain way for 60+ years. My advice: start small. Maybe begin with just the golden milk before bed, or swap your morning eggs for my bone builder breakfast bowl. Small, consistent changes add up to significant results over time. One question that always makes me smile comes from younger folks. My grandmother has osteoporosis, but won't listen to me about nutrition. How can I help her? My answer is always the same: lead by example, share delicious food rather than facts, and respect her autonomy. My own granddaughter's gentle approach is what opened my mind to plant-based eating in the first place. One aspect of sustaining this way of eating is adapting to the seasons, both for variety and affordability. Eating the same foods year-round can get boring quickly, and many of us are on fixed incomes where budget matters. In spring, my bone-healthy meals feature abundant leafy greens, fresh herbs, and early vegetables like asparagus. My spring detox soup combines these with white beans and a lemon tahini drizzle for a calcium-rich meal that feels cleansing after winter. Summer brings a bounty of fresh produce, and I rely less on cooked foods. My summer bone builder salad combines calcium-rich black beans with cherry tomatoes, bell peppers for vitamin C, and a creamy avocado tahini dressing. I'll often add calcium-set tofu for extra protein and minerals. Fall is when I transition to heartier fare like my butternut squash and white bean stew with kale. The deep orange color of the squash indicates its high vitamin A content, which works synergistically with vitamin D for bone health. Winter calls for warming, mineral-rich foods. My winter mineral stew features dried beans, root vegetables, seaweed for iodine and additional minerals, and plenty of herbs and spices with anti-inflammatory properties. To make all this manageable, I've developed a simple system for menu planning that I call my 3-2-1 method. Each week, I prepare 3 different vegetable dishes that can be mixed and matched 2 protein-rich foods like bean spreads, tofu dishes, or lentil patties, 1 sauce or dressing that can transform simple ingredients into exciting meals. This approach means I'm never starting from scratch for any meal, but I'm also not eating identical foods day after day. It's been a game changer for maintaining this lifestyle with minimal effort. I keep a binder with seasonal recipes organized by their primary bone-supporting nutrients. When planning my week, I ensure I'm covering all bases: calcium sources, vitamin D-rich foods, vitamin K through greens, and anti-inflammatory ingredients like turmeric and berries. This might sound elaborate, but it's become second nature. The peace of mind from knowing I'm nourishing my bones with every bite is worth the small amount of planning time. Let's talk about something that can be trickier than any recipe: navigating family dynamics and social situations when you change your diet, especially for health reasons. When I first went plant-based for my bones, my husband Bob was, let's just say, less than enthusiastic. "What am I supposed to eat? Rabbit food," he'd grumble. Rather than lecture him about health, I simply started making delicious plant-based meals alongside his usual fare. Gradually, he started asking for seconds of my rabbit food, and now, at 78, he's about 80% plant-based himself. My children were divided. My daughter, the college professor, immediately sent me research supporting my decision. My son, however, was concerned I was falling for internet nonsense and not getting proper nutrition. What changed his mind? Results. When my bone scan improved and my energy soared, he couldn't argue with success. As for my grandchildren, they've been my greatest allies. Children are naturally curious and open-minded. My 11-year-old granddaughter now proudly tells people, "My grandma is vegan, and she has the strongest bones in our family." Kids also love being involved in food preparation, so cooking together has become our special bonding activity. Social situations presented different challenges. At first, I dreaded dinner invitations and restaurant outings. Would there be anything I could eat? Would I have to explain my choices and face judgment? I developed a simple strategy. I always eat a small, nutrient-dense meal before social gatherings, bring a dish to share at potlucks, and check menus online before restaurant visits. When asked about my food choices, I keep it light. I'm eating this way for my health, and it's working wonderfully for me. Now tell me about your grandchildren. Holiday gatherings were the ultimate test. The first Thanksgiving after my diagnosis, I brought several plant-based dishes that supported bone health. A wild rice stuffing with mushrooms and kale, roasted Brussels sprouts with tahini sauce, and a pumpkin pudding made with calcium-fortified plant milk and chia seeds. To my surprise, these dishes were the first to disappear from the buffet. My sister, the same one who predicted I'd end up in a wheelchair, asked for the Brussels sprouts recipe. Small victories. What I've learned through this journey is that food is deeply personal and emotional. When we change how we eat, especially later in life, we're not just changing nutrients, we're changing traditions, expressions of love, and long-held beliefs. Approaching these changes with patience, humor, and delicious food goes a long way toward bringing loved ones along on your journey. While I started this journey focused solely on improving my bone density, I've experienced so many unexpected benefits that I sometimes forget. Osteoporosis was my original motivation. The most noticeable change came about 3 months in. My energy levels soared. I'd grown so accustomed to the afternoon slump that I thought it was just part of aging. Suddenly, I was gardening until sunset and still had energy to play board games with my grandkids after dinner. Next, my digestion improved dramatically. Without going into too much detail, let's just say that the increased fiber from all those plant foods resolved issues I'd been managing with over-the-counter remedies for years. My skin began to look different too. The deep lines around my eyes softened, and several friends asked if I'd had work done. I hadn't. It was simply the antioxidants and hydration from all those fruits and vegetables, along with the elimination of inflammatory foods. Perhaps most surprising was the improvement in my cognitive function. I'd been noticing some mild forgetfulness that concerned me, as my mother had developed dementia in her late 70s. After about 6 months on my bone-building plant diet, I found myself remembering names more easily and feeling mentally sharper. My crossword puzzle time improved by several minutes. My sleep deepened as well. I now fall asleep within minutes of my head hitting the pillow and wake naturally before my alarm, feeling genuinely refreshed. My doctor explained that the magnesium in my diet, abundant in the greens, beans, and nuts I was eating for calcium, also happens to be nature's relaxant. My joint pain diminished significantly. The arthritis in my hands used to make knitting, one of my favorite hobbies, painful after just 30 minutes. Now I can knit for hours, creating blankets for my grandchildren and hats for the local homeless shelter. Even my sense of taste changed. After a few months without added sugars and excess salt, my taste buds seemed to reset. Blueberries tasted like candy. A fresh tomato from my garden was a flavor explosion. Food became more enjoyable, not less, despite the restrictions I'd placed on my diet. But perhaps the most profound benefit has been psychological. There's something deeply empowering about taking control of your health through daily choices. Instead of feeling like a victim of aging, I feel like an active participant in my well-being. That sense of agency, of having a say in how I experience these later years, has been transformative. When I share these unexpected benefits with friends considering similar dietary changes, I often say, I came for the bone health, but I stayed for everything else. The improvements in my bone density might have been my original goal, but these other benefits ensure I'll never go back to my old way of eating. So here we are at the end of my story, or rather, the middle of it, because this journey continues every day. 6 years after that frightening diagnosis, I'm not just surviving with osteoporosis, I'm thriving despite it. My bone density continues to hold steady, and in some areas even improve, confounding medical expectations for someone my age. More importantly, I'm living the active, engaged life I want. Last month, I took my grandchildren hiking in the state park, something I couldn't have imagined doing safely when my bones were at their weakest. Next year, Bob and I are planning our first international trip in a decade, feeling confident that my health can handle the adventure. If you're watching this and feeling overwhelmed by a recent diagnosis or concerned about bone health as you age, please know this: it's never too late to make changes that impact your health. I was 67 when I overhauled my diet and lifestyle. If I could do it, with my limited cooking skills and initial resistance to exercise, you certainly can. 2. Start small. Perhaps begin with my golden milk recipe tonight, or add a serving of calcium-rich greens to tomorrow's lunch. Small, consistent changes compound over time, just like interest in a good savings account. If you found value in today's video, I'd be so grateful if you'd give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to Plant-Powered Seniors. Each week, I share recipes, research updates, and practical tips for thriving on a plant-based diet in our golden years. In the comments below, I'd love to hear about your own experiences with bone health, or any questions you might have about the recipes I've mentioned. This community has become such a source of support and inspiration for me, and I learn as much from you as you might learn from me. Next week, I'll be sharing my full Bone Builder breakfast bowl recipe with 5 seasonal variations to keep it interesting year-round. You won't want to miss it. Until then, remember what I tell my grandchildren: our bodies are remarkable in their ability to heal when we give them the right tools. Your bones are alive and constantly renewing themselves. Nourish them well, move them regularly, and they'll support you for many adventures to come. This is Grandma Maggie from Plant-Powered Seniors, wishing you strong bones and a vibrant life. See you next week.